Legends, boys are back at it again. We're rolling up to Crust Pizza.
Right. We left early.
We're leaving earlier than normal, as my brother just mentioned, because it's supposed to be 43 Celsius, feel-like temperature. That's about 105, 106 degrees Fahrenheit. It's gonna be hot. So we wanna be back early, at the latest noon, and avoid the heat of the day. Yeah. So we're rolling past, we just rolled past Palmer Woods. What's up? Yeah, Palmer Woods.
Yeah.
Look at this. Beautiful.
Beautiful morning.
Right now it might be like 25 C. It's almost like 80 degrees. So maybe 28 Celsius. So you know it's gonna be hot when the overnight low is 28 Celsius, which is 80 Fahrenheit. you know the heat is here. It's hanging around. All our lawns are dry. And so I had to water one zone as we left this morning. The weakest zone I have, which has the most exposure to sunlight.
It should be okay as long as we keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're moving, you got a nice crispy, we got a lightweight, flyweight going on today.
On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton, rolled into the Woodlands. The ride was scheduled to leave 30 minutes earlier. So we picked up a few guys in the parking lot at Crust Pizza. We headed out, went down Fishcreek, the Capitol, Raven Chapel, Mill Route 2854, and we turned off the filming at Montgomery. We went through the forest. We lost a member of our group. He turned back around, was Robert. We came back on Bethel, then we took Bailey Grove there back to 149, and then we stopped at Taco, refueled, came back on 2854, Mill Route, River Chapel, then we took Honier, Egypt, all the way in to the Woodlands. I think you will like the clips we got for you. The focus here is learning how to ride when you have a very small group, so you don't basically lose members of your group. You know, it's a different style of riding to encourage people to stay up there and take strong pulls.
There's only one race left, and because of all the humidity, we lose money because our field. Yeah, I went back.
We just left Crust Pizza, and Mike Barrera are chatting about the decrease in bicycle racing generally in the United States over the years. You know, he used to host races in his hometown. He said the last one he just went to in May, they had only 40 people show up in one of the categories, which was like 100 riders less than what they normally used to get. So everything's on the decline. You know, the sport is not growing because, you know, not really sure. It's not any one thing, but we're talking about in the parking lot, the elitist attitude some cyclists have. Like if somebody's not wearing the right kit or looking the right way, they want to look down on them. We need more people riding bikes. That's the bottom line. Nobody gives a crap what you're wearing. We need to open the welcome wagon to everybody on a bicycle and let's grow this sport. Yeah, she mentioned, she said, good morning, Abby.
Did she say Abby?
I was like, I don't look like Abby. Not all black people look alike. I don't know. She said Abby, you know, she probably just mistook. She's waiting on somebody. There are some riders to leave from that parking lot we just passed. There's an Italian restaurant in there called Zanti's. And Paul H. and some other riders, they usually meet there.
We're just here, man. Huh?
That's Robert. He said we're just here. We're giving him the option.
Fishcreek.
He said he didn't like the traffic on Honia, Egypt. There's really, so what I'm telling Mike here is during the week, because he goes out, he trains out there in the forest. I told him if you go out Honia, Egypt during the week, there's nothing. That's what we're talking about. I'm giving him information that can help because he just moved to the area and he actually has learned the roads very quickly. He kind of had a general idea from watching our films, but he's picked up on it. He's taking his wife out there in the car to show her the routes we ride. He really loves you will hear him talk about it in a little bit, that he likes the forest, he likes the trees, because he grew up near the ocean. You don't have that. So I'm giving him tips on when you go out during the week, you know, what direction, based on the direction you're going, these roads are very clear. There's no industry. I told him I use Honia, Egypt a lot because there's not a whole lot of cars. You get a car now and then in the morning. In both directions, really. When you're coming back later, it's not that bad. So that's what we're talking about. That's the kind of conversation I like to have. Give people tips and suggestions. Meaningful stuff. That don't know all the routes. You know, he's a student of the sport, so he's been studying the area. You will hear Paul tell him in a little bit that he's been a great addition to this group. It's because of Michael that we're having this ride, because nobody else posted. He posted that, you know, what do you guys think about leaving? He loves the clouds. You know, it keeps early in the morning. He'll burn off in a few hours. But basically, he posted setting up this ride because nobody else did. It's not our group. We just kind of joined these guys, but the people who used to do it, they've like disappeared. And as soon as he posted, Mark said, I'm out. So I made sure I posted that Paul and I are in for the 6:30 start, because, you know, I don't know how it works in your area because they use a GroupMe app that everybody is registered in, have access. But if somebody's starting a ride, what is the point of you saying you're out? Does that enhance the ride? No. So if you're out, don't post. We only want to hear from people who are coming because we want people to encourage others to come. I mean, when you don't show up, we'll know you're out. But to post that you're out, it might discourage others from joining the ride. So keep that to yourself. If you're out, don't post. We only want to hear from the people who are coming. And I will make sure I let them know in person too. I'm not just saying it on here. Car back, so I speed up so Michael can get behind me. It's a very narrow road. So even though it's early in the morning, we give him a little more room for the guy to go by. And I just hold the same pace. So the focus of this ride is going to be, how do you ride in a small group? We only have 5 riders right now. Myself, Michael, Paul, and then we have James and Robert. Robert ends up turning around once we get on 149 past Taco and coming back. So it ends up being 4 of us.
You have been a good addition to this group.
Oh, thank you for saying that, Paul.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me coming from you.
It's been an excellent teammate.
So I'm just holding like 16, 17 miles an hour, something like that. I'm just doing the same pace. I can see them in my mirror, and we're just kind of warming up.
I really love all the trees and the forest and everything. You know, we kind of always crave what we don't have. Like, I've got the ocean, so that doesn't really thrill me that much.
Yeah.
For other people that who are growing up on a mountain, they probably want the ocean.
Yeah.
But for me and Rosalie, it's like, you know, we've had the ocean for me all my life, and her for all her life too in the Philippines, and it's like this forest is a whole cool thing for us.
Yeah, Michael's from San Diego, California, born and raised.
And the deer. You know,
do you guys go back often to visit, or you still have a home over there? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. My mom, basically, we call it the Brere's compound. You know, we had 2 houses side by side.
Okay.
So my mom and my brother and his wife live there.
Okay. That's good. Gives you a second home.
Yeah, but you know, we like it. We think we're gonna buy next year.
Okay.
Kind of waiting and, you know, to make sure 100% we want to stay. And number two, want to get a really good lay of the land.
Right.
And number three, you know, the market's going to be getting more and more favorable for buyers again.
Right.
We sold our in January, right before we moved here, we sold our townhouse in Point Loma.
Okay.
And it was just, I felt sorry for the buyers. I mean, it was just crazy bidding wars, and I felt really, you know, bad that they had to pay so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it was nice for Rosie and I, but
yeah,
you know, it was just sad. You know, it's just so crazy. It's so crazy out there, the real estate prices.
Yeah.
I stopped because there wasn't enough room for them to make it with all these cars coming. So you always stop for the last person in the group. And then in a small group, it's not a race. Don't just accelerate viciously.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
I'm just steadily raising the pace. Because what we want to do is, in a small group, you want to take longer pulls at more reasonable effort levels. Meaning, you know, zone 2, 3, maybe sweet spot. You know, it just needs to be steadier, so everybody can adjust. And then once you pull off, the next person needs to keep the effort similar. And you will see Michael's on my wheel, and when I pull off, he does exactly what I'm talking about. And I didn't say anything to him or whatever, but he's an experienced rider and he understands the group is small. When the group is small, you want to keep it together, and you want to encourage people to take pulls. And the way you do that is you keep the effort steady. You take longer pulls so everybody adapts to the effort. And then when you take over, you don't surge. And it's the same thing in a larger group. You're not encouraged to surge unless the group is an aggressive style riding where they're attacking and so forth. But when you're taking a pull in any group, you want to try to match the last effort that was being done. Just keep that in mind, so that the person getting off the front can go back and recover at that pace that they were pulling at. Because if you keep the effort the same and they slip in the back, they get to take a break. That encourages them to come back and take more pulls. In a small group, that's critical, because I decided to stay up there for about 5 minutes. That's just, I didn't talk to anybody about it. That was just my plan. I figured as 5 of us, we take 5-minute pulls in about, let's say 2 to 3 hours. We'll probably have done 4 or 5 rounds. I mean, the ride will be over. So you know, that's the way you do it. The smaller the group, take longer pulls, keep the pace reasonable, so you don't lose people. You don't discourage others. So I'm gradually edging the effort up. Right now it's in zone 2. I'm not looking at watts or anything, just steady. I keep my eyes on the people behind me by using my mirror, see where everybody is. I see Michael on my wheel, and I just keep the effort going. The road will level off a little bit, and I'm gonna shift up so I'm not spinning too high a cadence. And we'll talk more about cadence in a few kilometers. You will see how I use the cadence to encourage my legs to last. That's the best way I can put it. You don't want to get to the front and get bogged down, because when somebody comes around you, then you can't respond, and then your legs need more time to recover. So you don't want to overgear. So that's Robert behind Paul there, and then James is on the other side. We'll get a better shot of them when I'm done pulling and Paul gives me the camera. But this effort allows everybody to comfortably kind of ease into the ride. And that will encourage people to come to the front for their turn. I had mentioned in the prologue that it was like 28C. Well, maybe at midnight it was like 28C, but by the time we started, you can see it says 23. So it's more like 74 Fahrenheit, thereabouts, you know. And it actually feels nice in the morning. That's one reason we leave early. This this front or whatever we've been dealing with since June, the winds come from the west, and this morning it was northwesterly. So it's in our face and from the left. We're getting a lot of westerly winds which are coming from the desert area, like maybe Phoenix, Las Vegas, that kind of stuff. And so it heats up quickly, but in the morning it's nice. And then after about 6 p.m., it's tolerable because we have a lot of breeze. So if you go outside and you're not directly in sunlight, it's not that bad. But in the middle of the day, from say about 1 p.m. to about 6 p.m., you want to treat it like winter. You want to hibernate or be in a cooling center or maybe in a mall or something. You don't want to be outside. The sun literally burns you. You can feel it on you. Because this time of the year, this part of the world tilts. The axis of the earth tilts towards the sun. That's why we have longer days. So we're closer to the sun than we ever will be in the winter and other parts of the year. So we have more exposure. That's just the way the Earth's axis behaves this time of year, as it makes its journey around the sun every day. I think I get off the front as we go through the light. I think that's when I'm going to pull off. Just going to flick my right elbow. Flicking my right elbow says to the rider behind two things. It's time for you to take your pull, and you need to come on the direction of the elbow that you see me flick, meaning come on the right. Because I'm going to pull off into the wind so that as he's coming through, he can still have shelter. You always pull off into the wind. You see I flick my elbow, and I slow down just a tad. We're doing about 21 thereabouts, 20, 21. Back off, right like 19, and I'm drifting back. Then Paul's gonna give me the camera. Always pull off into the windward side whenever possible. That's Robert and that's James. So it's a small group. So you've got to keep it reasonable. There's no point in you riding off by yourself. If you started off with these guys and you want to ride with them, you need to ride with them. It's not the time to show how fit you are. If you are really fit, then you take longer pulls. So if other people are pulling for 2 minutes, then you pull for 5 minutes or more. That's the way you do it. Even at the pro level, you may have heard about it when the guys do team time trials. The strongest riders would take longer turns because they needed to cross with like 5 teammates. You can't just ride off from your teammates. You needed to cross with 5 guys to get your time recorded. So starting at 6:30 was great. Paul and I did some extra riding after we got back, but it was nice to not be out there in the heat of the day. I'm adjusting the camera for this shot. I wanted to take a ground level shot. So I've got the camera right above the pavement. And that's easier to do when the pace is steady as opposed to the jackrabbiting stuff that we do sometimes. So I'm straightening the camera back up because I made the camera more horizontal so I could put it down near the road surface. It's more vertical. So you see, everybody has the idea of what I'm talking about. Michael knows. He's taking a long pull. It's a small group. And look at what he did. He pulled through. He's doing the exact effort that I was doing. Exactly what I talked about. We never talked about it, but he just knows. And this is the reason for those of you on this channel. This is where you can get this information and then practice it. Now, it doesn't mean everybody will do that. So if you're riding with people that are surging when they get to the front, let them go. If you're behind them, hold the group pace. Let them surge off the front, unless you want to play with them or something. But let them surge and you hold the group pace, because that would be like the peloton per se. Don't put a damper on people's fun. You know, if you're in a group that has a few riders that want to do more, but let them go off the front and do whatever. If that's not your thing that day, you stay with the main group. And those of you in the back can just keep working, because they'll have to slow down. Because if they're not doing something that's sustainable and you guys are holding a sustainable pace, you will catch them. They're not going to gain that much time if they can't sustain it. Keep that in mind. But you don't need to tell them, hey, you know, but some groups will. Some groups will say we're going to hold a steady pace. And then you get there and you start messing around, they'll let you know. You know, some groups are more stricter than others, but we don't do that here. You want to do stuff, we'll decide whatever we want to go with you and let you go. And then we'll just stay with the main group, and those who want to chase up to you can do that. I think that's more fun, actually. And then you can have the main group of people that want to stay together continue to work at that pace. Because in a way, it's like you're chasing back up. The roads are going up. You can see I'm getting near sweet spot, even though I'm sitting on the back. I stay a little in the wind just to get this shot. In a little bit, I will go to the right to get a better angle. I think actually later on. But we switch the cameras whenever one of us gets off the front. But I ride on, right now I'm on the right, and I'm gonna drift, and when it's clear, maybe go to the left to get different shots. It keeps it more interesting. A little debris there. I'm nowhere near that. This Fishcreek is nice. We can use the whole lane if we choose to. It's never that busy. The speeds are faster than in the city, but they use the left lane. I don't remember what the speed limit is here. It might be 45 or so, maybe a little more. But they patrol here pretty much because they want to slow people down. Because everything you see, these fences on the right and there are buildings on the left, there's residences close by. So whenever you have that, they keep the speeds down. So you see how long Michael has been up there. So, you know, if somebody pulls that long, don't be the person that's going to go attack and break up the group. It's kind of like, even if you're in a breakaway, then nobody wants to work with you, then what do? You all slow down. So, keep that in mind. So he's taking that long pull because he knows there's a small group, and we're going to be riding for at least 3 to 4 hours. That's why we left early. In fact, in his post, he said, let's leave early so we can ride longer or harder. That's what he said. That was his post. And like a true roller, he stood up as the road went up back there, rolling that gear. He's still standing. So if you're behind somebody and they stand when the road goes up and you're seated, you need to downshift unless you can really handle that gear as the gradient kicks in, so that you don't strain yourself, because when they stand, they're using their upper body, so they carry a slightly larger gear at a lower cadence. So he's done pulling. He's been pulling for a while. So you figure there's five of us. Everybody takes 5 minutes. That's 25 minutes. So that means 2 cycles of the riders, and it'll be almost an hour. So 4 cycles, that's 2 hours. So you figure 6 cycles, we're pretty much done. 3 hours. That's about what these guys are doing. So it's like, that's why you take longer turns. It keeps it simple. Now, if you're in the group and you cannot pull as long as the other ones, don't feel obligated to. You pull for as long as you can, or if you can't pull at all, pull off, roll back to the back. Next person would kick in. But don't take a pull and then cause yourself to get dropped. And then people have to wonder or wait for you or whatever. It's better for you to just sit in if the pace is too high for you. So Paulie Lunga is pulling. He's standing now as the rule. It's a slight grade. And it says 2%. Get a lot of that around here. Most of the time, I don't bother shifting. I just push the gear, man. Unless it's just too high of a gear. But yeah, most of the time I'm spinning at, especially solo, I'm spinning close to 100, and my cadence might drop by 10 on the 2%er. I just stay in the same gear because 90 is a respectable cadence. You can go down as much as 80 or 75. You know? So, I don't like to go down much below 70. So we're rolling around 22, 23 miles an hour. This is a respectable pace. If you do this for 3 hours, you will cover a lot of ground. That's like 75 miles, you know. About 22 kilometers or something like that. That's pretty respectable. So you make more progress just keeping your pace. Paul pulls off. I'm going to prepare the camera for him. What I do is I hold the body of the camera. That's what I'm doing. That's why you see my finger near the lens. And I hand him the stick. The stick is under it. And he just grabs the stick. It's easier to transition. And so because the pace is the same, Paul can slip in on the back now and catch his breath. And this will encourage him to come back later to take another pull. That's what it's about. You start trying to be a hero and start changing the pace and attacking people or whatever. In a small group, you're gonna just shatter everything. You end up riding by yourself. So even though that's a bit of an incline, it says 2% here, what we're doing about 18 miles an hour. So we might end up climbing the overpass, let's say, at about this pace, 18 miles an hour or so, which is fine. The idea is to keep your group together. The smaller the group is, the more you want to work with the people in the group. We approach the overpass. I don't know if I downshifted or not, but whatever gear I'm in, my goal is not to stay below 90 RPM too much. Okay, we're doing about 18 miles an hour right now. So it always takes more effort into the wind, up a climb, to do the same. So we're pushing because of the overpass, but we're able to keep the same pace per se, the same speed, let's say that way, because the effort is harder because of the overpass. So it's a whole different mindset in a very small group, unless you guys are going out for what they call fartlek training, where you're attacking, there's a lot of surges or whatever. But if you're just going out for a long ride with your mates, you want to keep it steady as much as possible. You still get the benefit from the effort, because if you're staying up there longer, you're working longer, and you can edge it up near sweet spot and sit up there long. Most of your training should be relatively easy anyway. We're going to be turning on capital. I think Robert will ask, and I'm just going to point when it's clear, because I can see the traffic in my mirror.
Clear.
I didn't have a clear shot. That's why I looked behind. It looked clear, and I just verified before moving out there. And you heard Paul say clear. Because when you have riders following you in the mirror, you can see them, and sometimes they block the view of cars in the back. I stay close. I stand because this road is uneven. That pavement is higher than this little bypass, what we call Capitol Hill. So I always stand there. I don't want my bike to be bouncing while I'm sitting on it. I'm looking for the smoothest patches of road here. That's why I'm not following directly. I want to see the road myself, because nobody's pointing anywhere. Even if they are, it will be too late, because the patches are not that bad. They're just a little sketchy, that's all. Basically, patina gives the road character. Always read the road. Avoid the difficult patches on the road. Your wheels will last longer. You have fewer flats and so forth. I'm standing because it's very uneven in this section. So I took the weight off. Now I'm seated, and I'm pointing that out for Michael so he can see the little bump. But by staying to the right, I can see around them. Now Robert has pulled off. James takes over. I'm going to ride up to James because we're going downhill. But I don't want to be working in the wind, because when he's done, I've got to pull. That's the way you have to think. So you need a draft, so you can be fresh when it's your turn to take the lead. There's no point riding in the group and not drafting. You might as well ride alone. You see Michael take a drink? Don't forget to drink. There's no set period. It's recommended that you drink maybe every 15 minutes, especially when it's hot like this. Don't wait till you get thirsty. Just drink, take little drinks, so you're not gulping anything. I usually drink before I get on the bike, and so that way my 2 full bottles can go well into 2 hours before I need a refill in hot weather. My issue is when it's cold, I don't drink enough. And you get home and your urine is yellow. That should never be. It should be clear. It's not good for your body to be low on fluids when you exercise. So even when you're off the bike, stay hydrated. Even when it's not hot, the body needs water. We're made up of mostly water. You saw I pointed and Michael pointed immediately. Didn't matter what I was pointing at. He was just letting the rider behind him know. That thing when people do, they say hold and all of that is ineffective. I've talked about it before. Just point, because people will avoid where you're pointing. We turn and there's a bit of a grade. I downshift and I spin up. You see the watts? And so as a result, I lost no ground. And I kept my rhythm the same. You got 11 gears or 10 gears or 9 gears, use them. Don't carry them and then ride one gear. So James took a nice long pull. But he's riding kind of hard. Actually, he's riding harder than I did when I was pulling, and I think he's riding harder than Michael did. So as a result, I'm just sitting, I'm very close to him. You can see I am drafting really closely because when he pulls off, I want to take another long pull so the rest of the guys can get a break. That's another reason I'm keeping my cadence very high, so my legs are fresh, because I don't know when he's going to pull off. I always wait in this situation until the rider pulls off. I don't like to just pass the rider because he or she slows down. I let them either flick or tap, whatever they want to do, whatever signal they want to give. I let them ride till they're done, and then I go ahead and take my lead. Because on a small group, there's no point in passing the rider like you've seen on some of our films, where we're going up the hill and this person pulling, and then Shempusan, somebody else comes around and goes to the front and lifts the pace, and then they basically take the lead. In a small group, we don't want to do that. We don't want to discourage people from pulling. So until he says he's done, I'm just sitting behind. A lot of nuances, you know, every group has a different character. But most of the time, when you don't have a lot of riders, the riding changes to what you're seeing on screen. Because people don't want to be riding alone. That's why they came to the group riding. If you have a lot of riders, then there's more activity in terms of attacks and so forth, because you will still end up with a core group if people chose not to go with those moves. We're approaching the intersection here, and I'm looking. I start to look for cars, right or left. I don't depend on someone else looking for me. You can see I'm on the side there, and I'm looking right or left, and I'm going to signal that it's clear. There's a dead end on the left. Right here, I'm expecting him to back off, but he accelerates, so I just take my place back in line. I'm following James so closely because I want to save every ounce of energy that I can. The road goes up here. I think this is like a 3.5% climb, and you can see it's a nice length. I come out here often when I head in this direction solo. I like this hill. It's just hard enough and long enough to keep you honest. We'll go downhill here, shift up, ride a big gear. I'm kind of soft pedaling right now because right up there it's going to kick up. It's very short. We call like a sprinter's, not even a sprinter's bump. It's nothing significant. I think I'm reaching for a bottle. Go ahead and taking a drink. I just keep a little bit in there. Every 15 minutes or so, I just put a little bit. I'm not thirsty. I just get in the habit of drinking. I didn't know how my body was going to feel today after 10 days off the bike. And so everything just felt pretty much on tap. I had ridden 2 days prior. So Wednesday and Thursday I rode, and then Friday I did a little spin. So 3 days in a row. That's usually good enough to get you back to the swing of things. With turn, I'm in the proper gear. I spin it up. See the watts? See the cadence? Triple digits. You don't always have to stand, depends on your mood. But if you stand and you need the appropriate gear, a larger gear. I'm expecting him to pull off here, but he doesn't. So I said, okay, I guess he wants to be up there, no worries. We got hours left in the ride. It's good to see him taking a long pull, so that's good. I'm at sweet spot behind him, so he's working hard. Because it takes a lot for me to get up to sweet spot. Got on the drops a little bit. Back on the hoods. I prefer the hoods when I'm following people. I like the drops if I'm by myself or if I'm following a rider like Michael here. Michael gets very low on his bike. So on the way back, I was using the drops a lot behind him to get some kind of draft. But I like to use the hood so I can see around the rider. You can see I'm keeping my cadence close to 100, thereabouts. I'm not looking at it. I'm just staying in a gear where I can change the pace without thinking about it. You see me gliding. I'm looking for the smoothest patches of pavement on this road. I love this road. South Pine has character. And everything you've seen, how we look, all of us that you see on this film, it starts with a good bike fit. A lot of riders want to take shortcuts. They think they can fit themselves and whatever. You will never know for sure if you're dialed in. And you will find out when you start riding really hard and really long, that's when a bad fit will kick in and let you know things hurt. You see how close we all stayed? And Paul got gapped here. He's going to have to ride up to us. This is where James pulls off, and I maintain the exact effort. I didn't change anything. I'm not looking at speed. I'm just rolling. This allows everybody to get up. James gonna slip back on the back. I'm keeping things steady. In the distance, the road is gonna go up. I'm going to downshift when I get there to try to keep the rhythm the same. It's a slight grade. It's like a ninja grade. It said 1%. It's going up. I feel it. That's why I'm on the tops. I breathe better. I don't need that much of the aerodynamics here. We're only doing 18 to 20 miles an hour maybe. The road is going to go up. I'm going to downshift as the grade kicks in because I want to keep my legs fresh enough to pull all the way to 2854. That's what's in my head. And every time you take a pull, you should have a plan. You're going to do it for 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, or whatever. That's your plan. Doesn't mean you'll get to execute it if somebody comes around and people start attacking or whatever. Then you have to make another decision where to slip back in, you know. But in this small group, I knew Michael was just going to sit on because he'll get a chance to take a pull when I'm done. This lets him catch a breather. So my effort says 167. When I was behind James, it was like 160, 161. It's thereabouts. Same range. At the bottom of zone 4. That's where I am right now. Because racing pace for me is like 175, something like that. And it feels completely different than this zone I'm in. The road goes up, I've downshifted. If you look at my cadence, it's going to stay in that same range. The speed may drop a bit, but when you downshift and you rev it up, you don't lose that much speed. Because once you get over the grade, you shift up. That allows the people behind you to have some kind of tempo, like a regulated tempo to deal with, instead of surging. So as we're going down here, I'm shifting up. I'm trying to keep the rhythm the same. So from the way your cleats are set on your shoe to your saddle height, your fore aft, that's what controls how you look back there. And then the front is controlled by your stem height and your stem length. So if you're having any kind of discomfort on the bike, get professional assistance. Don't spend 30 plus years messing with stuff and never get it right, like most riders do. The road goes up here. I believe I downshifted. I was trying to keep the effort the same, so you have 200 some watts. It's a reasonable tempo. Even though we're wearing the flyweight jerseys, coming back, it felt hot. The jersey did its job. It was just the air is hot. From about, I think it was like 11 in the morning or so. It just felt kind of hot. So you have to prepare for riding in hot weather. We saw a cyclist sitting on the side of the road after we left the group when we're back in the woodlands. And his face was beet red. And you know, he looked like he was having difficulty, but when we asked, he said he was fine. So I told him there's a park right down the street with water there if you need it. Because one thing about the heat, if you have enough water, you can tolerate it. But he didn't look good at all. He had stopped on the side of the road sitting on the grass under a tree. He wasn't sitting on a park bench. That told me that something was wrong. You know? So there was no sprint. This is where we sprint usually. In a small group, nobody wants to sprint. We got a long day ahead. Save that energy to get you out and get you back. And in a little bit, I'm going to wave Michael up, let him take the lead. I think I'm going to pull off to the right because the wind is coming from in our face and from the right, from the north. It's blowing northwesterly. Very unusual for our part of the world this time of year. Usually it's from the south. And when we have that from the south, then we get these thunderstorms and so forth. So the whole pattern is different right now. It's been dry for like 6 weeks around here. So Michael said, good pull. I just nodded my head.
There you go, my brother.
And Paul hands me the camera. So 3 to 5 riders is great for training, even if you guys are doing intervals or whatever, because you get enough chance to rest before you got to go back to the front. So even if the pace was much faster than this, it's still a good amount of riders to get a good workout in. Because in most large groups, there's a small percentage of the people in there that are training pace at the front. Not everybody slides all the way to the back. The day after this ride, I rode with the Sun and Ski guys, and it was very fast. I did about an hour with them, and we were just flying. It was within the woodlands. They didn't come out here, but it was great. It was exactly what I needed. In a little bit, I'm going to experiment, take some pictures from the right, then from the left. Right now, I'm sitting right behind James. I can see the traffic in my mirror. I think when it's clear, I go to the left to kind of get a shot so you can see, besides these two guys, who's up there doing stuff. But I tried it on the right, and I think it's going to be pretty good. I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, right here. That's a good shot because you can see all the way to the front of the line. I'm just a little over on the right. I don't like to ride that little crack right there. You see where the gray asphalt and the black asphalt? It's a little groove. There's nothing significant that will grab your wheel, but it feels weird if you ride on it. So I avoid it. I've gotten in it on one patch one time. It felt odd, like something was grabbing my wheel. I didn't like the feeling. This is a right turn lane for the new subdivision to put right here. They just added that. Robert had exclaimed about something. I think he missed one of the reflectors. Sometimes these reflectors get knocked out of their spot, and it may have been further out in the lane. I hate running over those reflectors like a square bump. Feels like a tiny speed bump. It's not fun. And he had exclaimed, so James was asking him what happened. This is another shot here, right here. I'm all the way to the right, and I've got the camera in my right hand. I knew I wouldn't need to shift. Yeah, 85. So I'm probably in a 53.19 or something like that. So I figure even if they sped up, I wouldn't need to shift. I could just spin it faster. I think I'm switching hands. I'm going back to the left hand. But you see how we're making progress. Just the 5 of us. We stayed together because everybody's taking their cuts. Instead of people sitting on the back. I don't know, you know, you come out to do a ride, you want to work out, you got to go through and take your pulls. You don't get strong just sitting in. You got to do some work. So whenever I have the camera, I don't focus so much on drafting perfectly. I want some shots. That's why you're seeing I look like I'm from a distance. I'm moving that camera around. I'm right at sweet spot, so it's not very hard. I mean, it's hard, but not very hard, if you know what I mean. So I check for traffic, move out into the lane a little bit, because we're going to increase the speed down here. And the camera's in my left hand. I'm going to shift up. We just go faster. Nobody sprints or anything. We're just going faster. And even if somebody did, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I mean, you know, fun. It's just that when the group's small, the dynamics are different. I'm going to be making a video soon about what do you do when you get dropped? What's the significance? What does it mean? You know, blah, blah, blah. I've talked about it on some of these videos, but I want to get into just a specific detailed video about getting dropped. What does it mean? You can see our speeds are going up. We're going slightly downhill. Let's see. 0% is flat. We're doing about 26, 27 miles an hour. We're going to go up to, if we're probably already been to 30. It's probably slowing down now. We're approaching the light. So it was great to be back with the boys. As we rolled into Montgomery. Downtown Montgomery is about 5 kilometers to the left, about 3 miles to the left, the main downtown hub. So I don't know what you did this weekend, but this is part of what we did on Saturday to stay out of the heat. We left 30 minutes earlier than normal. So it was a 6:30 start. Remember, get your K's in, let nothing stop you, and keep all those doctors far